Welcome to the Shootin' the Q podcast, the podcast that's harder than your competition cooker and your first wife. We'll be talking barbecue and more with one of the top pitmasters in the game. Get ready for juicy tips, saucy tricks, and sizzling stories that'll leave you hungry for more. Let's start shooting the Q. Here's your host, Heath Riles.
How's it going, everybody? Today we are joined by Will Hare, one of my good friends and competitors on the Memphis Barbecue Network from Smoke Masters BBQ. How are you today, Will?
Good, man. Good. Good to see you.
You too. I appreciate you coming on today. So,
thanks for having me.
Just for the people that does not know Will Hare, tell everybody who Will Hare is and about your cooking team and all that kind of good stuff.
Smoke Masters started back in, I guess it was 2007. It was 2007, and we actually started under a different name. We came out as the Back Swine. It was a bunch of guys that I started with. We used to play golf and poker and pool and all that other good stuff together. So we took a swing on the Masters logo and had a nice, yellow pig with a golf flag sticking out of it. It was cute, and went to a couple different competitions, and we were building a big putting green in the middle of our setup there, and it was more about the party than it was about the barbecue back then. Of course, I think that's the way we all start on some level.
Of course.
I mean, you got to make it fun before anything. So, but yeah, we went with that a few years and got tired of explaining to people what the back swine meant every time they asked about it. So a few years later, it became Smoke Masters, still pulling on the golf logo there for a little while, and then got away from that, and it just became all about the barbecue. And I guess as happens with teams going down the road, the guys that were cooking with me got a little older and got married and had kids, and kids get into sports and things of that nature, and sports, dancing, whatever the girls do now, volleyball, you name it, swimming. I got. Oh yeah. 15, 16 guys on that team. There's one kid somewhere that's doing whatever you name. So. It dwindled off. We lost a few here, gained a few here, and the team eventually wore down to. I had to sit down and make a decision whether or not this was something I was going to do anymore, or whether I was going to just kind of let it go by the wayside. And I decided I was having enough fun with it, just me and my wife, and the few friends that were coming every here and now and then, that I wanted to keep going with it. So I think it was 16 when I hit the competition trail by myself pretty much. I'm not going to say none of the guys.
You did. You come out of the gate by yourself.
I did.
Without anybody.
The very first one I cooked was Butler, Alabama, and it was me. The wife didn't even come with me on that one. It was just me, and I cooked all three. And I learned real quick it's hard to do all three by yourself and be any good at anything. But, the very first one we threw out there, finaled in hog, of course, final in the NBN is top three, and I think there were only 5 hogs down there, so it wasn't a huge feat by any stretch of the imagination, but it was fun, and I hit it from there, man, and I never looked back. I can remember distinctly sitting at the cue ball, the award ceremony for the NBN that year, and thinking to myself, top 10 hogs out of at that time I think there might have been 15, 16 teams cooking hog, and I said, this is cool, but I want more. And I said, I'm top 3 next year. Well, in 17, I hit top 3. We were second place hog. And then in 18, I hit it. Not only did I win the first place hog, I took the whole smash. Of course,
I was still semi-cooking a little bit.
You're a little bit there. That's what I was just about to say. I said it was in no doubt related to the fact that a few of the bigger teams, a few of the more established guys had dropped back in 18 and 19, so I had a little bit of a clearer road back then. But, we got it in 18 and 19 and came real close in 21. I think we ended up second or third. I'd have to look back at the numbers to be for sure. But and then this year we took first place in pork. So, it's been a hell of a run, man. I can't argue. We've had a lot of fun with it.
I'm going to ask this before I go on any more competition questions. What else do you do besides barbecue? What do you do for a living if you don't barbecue full time?
Well, what pays the bills is I'm the locksmith for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I've been a locksmith for, 23? So, going on 25 years now because I started in 98.
That's kind of like a dying
It's a lot like a lot of the other trades right now. It's, you know, you don't get a lot of guidance counselors pushing kids into being locksmiths or welders or electricians, and that's why you've had such a hard time with the trades, and that's why the trades are making so much more money right now, is because there's just not a lot of people doing what we do anymore. So it's been a good gig for me. I can't deny it at all. I started out headed towards being a gunsmith. There was a little gun store out in Bartlett and called Whitten Arms at the time.
I remember Whitten Arms.
Yeah, it's changed hands 2 or 3 times now, and I think it's don't give me a line. I can't
Did you ever go and daddle sporting goods back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Ed Mason.
Ed Mason's one of those guys you could sit around at a table with him and talk to him for hours. And I could walk in that store and set a truck axle on the table, and Ed would start telling you how you could turn that into a gun.
Nice gentleman.
Oh man, he was a heck of a guy. He did some stuff that would really make you think. But yeah, that was where I was headed, and then the company that I worked for, Whitten Arms, at the time went out of business. And one of the guys who used to come in and shoot with me all the time, Bo Bosey, owns Town and Country Locksmiths on Summer Avenue over there. We had gotten to be friends, and he was like, "Look, you've got a pretty good mechanical aptitude about you. I think you might be interested in doing this. You know, come hang out with me for a little while and see what you think." Well, the rest is history, so they say, because, that was 98, 99. And
now, they had a barbecue team. Am I correct about that?
No, not that I know of. He may have cooked with the guys from Sidecar or something like that back in the day. But
right. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Now he's, he and his partner, Bo and Vince, are some of those guys that never met somebody they didn't like. You know, they can be friends with,
Oh, they kind of like me then.
Oh, well, there you go.
Wide open.
But yeah, They supported me getting started in it when I started in like I said, 7 and 8, and man, they loaned some equipment out and things of that nature. But yeah, it's been quite a road. But yeah, the locksmithing still pays the bills. I started with like I said, St. Jude in 2014, and it was one of those deals. I was looking for a better gig where I had benefits and insurance and all that.
I think we all chased those in the early days.
Yeah, man, that's you go from how much can I get. Oh, whether you're working per hour or per year or whatever it is, how much money can I put in my pocket? And then all of a sudden, you get to a certain age and it's okay. I'm looking to get married and have kids and, got to pay the mortgage and the insurance and all that good stuff. So it's whatever, your priorities definitely change at some point in your life. But St. Jude's been great to me, man. I tell you,
I bet it's a great company to work for.
Oh, God, it's incredible. It really
is. Talking about your day job, going back into barbecue and talking about competition barbecue, a lot of the listeners, Memphis Barbecue Network's kind of like MB or Memphis in May, and turned into that. And we just had Henry Evans on, talking about how the MBN was formed and all that. Yeah. And so out of those 3 categories, whole hog, shoulder, and rib, I pretty much know the answer to your question. I'm going to say your favorite category to cook is hog. Is that right?
Well,
Are you trying to change it now a little bit?
I'm shifting gears a little bit. I mean, I've won a couple Team of the Years with whole hog, and now I will say this: in Memphis and May, for right now, I'm going to stick to cooking whole hog, because if I move away from whole hog, that means I got to cook against you and the other guys.
Well, I mean,
there,
I'm hard headed though, Will. I mean, I really feel like that. I mean, every year that I cooked hog or shoulder, I walked the stage, except for the last year I was sick in shoulder, and I was deathly sick. Probably shouldn't have been cooking down there, but I died diverticulitis so bad. But, I wanted to do something that somebody hadn't done in rib, and last year I took a huge swing at it. I changed everything I done, and so I'm going to try to go back into that same method. I'd really like to be the one that breaks the trend. You know me, I'm trying to break all the rules. How long has it been since? 21 years since ribs won.
Since ribs took a grand? And
who
was that, Wheeler?
No, it was not. It was in 2002, and it was. If you wouldn't have asked me, I could have told you.
That's before my time.
If somebody started with a P, I can't pig.
It's out there somewhere.
It was somebody, yeah. It'll be on the board at Memphis in May, out there where the awards is at, what it was won with and who it was won by.
Absolutely.
I mean, but that's the reason I'm cooking rib. But if I wasn't cooking rib, I'd be a shoulder man down there.
I get it.
I mean, looking at this year's entries in hog and shoulder, it's gonna be pretty tough between a lot of people, depending on where you're at in the park.
I tell you, man, this year is.
It's gonna be more about competition.
Well, and everybody wants to fuss about the fact that they've cut back on the number of teams, but if you really look at the caliber of teams that are on that sheet now, you got some heavy hitters down there. Of course, we're missing Myron, which that's
his own fault.
Excuse me. Yeah, that's
not nobody's.
No, that's just a scheduling conflict, from what I understand. Now,
and he could have canceled that class and come on to Memphis and change it to the next week.
Hey, I'm not going. You got to do what pays the bills, right? And then Myron's got his livelihood just like everybody else does.
I don't blame him. He's a guaranteed winner that day.
There you go. He's bringing in.
I think he's probably going to make more than the winner will in Memphis that weekend. Probably work a little less.
Well, and it's hit or miss with hog for me. Past and
you're either fourth or second or first.
Well, that seems to be the way it's going the last few years.
You don't have a lot of third place trophies though in hog. Tell me if I'm wrong about that.
Me personally, no, I don't have any third. Not at Memphis May. I don't have any third.
No, I'm talking about in general on the circuit.
Oh no. No, I'm either first or second, or I'm
fourth,
bottom. Yeah, fifth. Bottom of the pack. Yeah,
bottom of the pack. That was either like me and Rib. I mean, I'm either gonna win it or fourth, or I'm way out of the charts.
You either knocked it out of the park, or I
either hit my marks that day, and it just depends on everything going on.
Yeah.
Well, you said you're kind of leaning more toward pulled pork now.
Well, pork and ribs is what we're starting to concentrate on now. I'm not going to say I'm getting out of hog, because I'm still cooking hog. I'm going to cook one at South Haven the next weekend.
You're going to cook one at the big money contest. Kind of my mentality, right?
Exactly.
You're not going to waste your time on a $600 first place anymore.
Exactly. Not when I'm buying a $500 hog and doing all that prep work. It's it's a lot for little in that aspect. But these contests, and there again, South Haven doesn't have that big of a purse on hog, but it's a warm up.
Was it $1,000 first place?
I think it's $800.
800.
I just looked at it, and because I looked at the new one that they're doing in Peavine, so I may be confusing the two. It may be 1,000. I'm not 100% sure.
I can't remember. It's been so long.
I'd have to look back at the numbers, but yeah, like you said, I've got 3 more before Memphis and May, so I kind of want to get geared up. I know I'm cooking one at South Haven. I'm probably going to cook one at Greenwood. I don't know if I'm going to drag one down to Peavine, because that's a new contest, and although the trophies are incredible, I don't know if you've seen them yet or not. They look like the Atoka trophies and the Ruleville trophies got together and had a baby.
Yes.
They're gorgeous.
I did see them.
Trains on top of a butcher block. Man, it's a great looking trophy.
I told Candace I would like to go down there and cook that, but I don't have the time.
Get it, man.
I don't.
You got all this going on.
I don't have the time. Well, so you're cooking on the backwoods for your whole hog, right?
Yep.
And so, tell me if I'm wrong, you're cooking your pork on a pellet grill, right?
No, I was. We were cooking on Yoders. I brought
Switched.
Yeah, I switched over and I bought matter of fact, the ASBP from
Kevin.
KO. Yeah. And that's what I'm cooking my pork on now. And depending on the day, I'll either cook my ribs on, if I get everything done in time where I've got a clean grill, I'll cook the ribs on the Ace, because, man, that's a rib cooking machine right there.
I mean, those are some good grills. You can't knock it Old Hickory now.
No, not a bit. And if I don't, I've got an old backwoods party that I fire up to get those ribs started. But I'm still finishing them off on that Ace, man. Something about that dry
that
heat.
Bark.
Yeah, something about that dry heat, man.
That top rack does it quick.
It
don't take long.
It does.
It don't take long.
Austin Dukers, one of the guys that cooks with you a lot, taught me how to cook that. Man, he cooks a 3-hour rib on that damn thing. It works.
I'm a 3-hour 300 rib on my grill now on the Outlaw.
On the Outlaw?
3-hour 300.
I guess I'm getting into this hot and
Needles
fast
up,
game.
baby.
Maybe there's something for it.
Well, talking about that, are you going to cook very many contests this year on the Memphis side?
On the Memphis side, I think I'm cooking everything they're doing, with the exception of, and here we go again, I'm missing Murfreesboro one more damn time.
You going down to the Delta?
Well, yeah. She keeps throwing that $10,000 belt out there, man, and I want that $10,000. I want it bad.
I really would wish the MBN would kind of get together and
separate those
fix
dates.
that situation off of Murfreesboro. That way you give everybody the opportunity to come chase those points.
Yeah.
Everyone to do it, because some people like me is never going to go. I'm not worried about chasing the points, but I might go cook one of those other contests in the Delta if I wasn't busy. But I'm going back to Murfreesboro every year.
Yeah.
It's just a thing for
me.
I
get it. And it
was my first GC, and so that's why I keep going back.
This year, because they added another one to the Delta, there's 5 in the Delta. I'm sorry, I'm having to add them up in my head. And I think there's Greenwood and Peavine that come before, well before the Murfreesboro contest. I mean, I think it's Murfreesboro and Ruleville are on the same day. And I could be wrong about that, because I think something flip-flopped this year. But here again, I'd have to look at the schedule. But I'm going to have to take a hard look at how I do on the first 2. And if I'm not really in the running on that belt, I may pack up and go to Murfreesboro. It's a bucket list contest for me. I've always wanted to go.
Well, you know how I feel about Murfreesboro.
I tell you, man, and you guys are killing it down there.
Yeah, we've been all right there.
Yeah, I see the.
I think 8 times.
Yeah,
8 times.
I'm telling you, man, that's a heck of an accomplishment.
I think that contest may be the most in any of them on circuit. I think South Haven maybe 6 or 7. I've won it 6 or 7 times. Wow. Yeah, I've won all of them multiple times, including the jig.
That's one of my. I've got 2 left that I want to grand that I haven't granted.
I kind of want to go back over there with a hog wheel.
Wait,
really
give me another year or two.
You know, thinking about that, who else can say they had done that
with all 3
rib, shoulder? I mean, I know it's a Memphis and May thing too, but you know, and I thought Blues Hog would have been in rib this year if taking a first hog, but they're back in hog this year.
Man, I tell you, with that what are they calling it? The mega drum, I guess is what they're calling it now. Yeah. Man, I tell you, it's a mega cooker. It's a thing, man. It's a thing. I tell you, when you got to have a winch to raise the lid on your cooker, of course, you're not far away with that outlaw. I mean, I'm glad I got long arms. Yeah, no doubt. Well, you know, talking about you're going to be cooking those contests year and all that kind of stuff, who would you say is your biggest competition so far this year on the Memphis side? Oh, Lord. The guys that took Team of the Year last year, Poker Porkers, about middle of the way last year, and I tease Lance about this all the time, I said about middle of the way last year, he found something, and I don't know what he found. But whatever it is, that he's got a taste in that judge's mouth, and they got to have it. I keep teasing him that he must have finally stumbled onto the Blues Hog train. But something he did, something he changed, and, man, it's working. He's hitting – I mean, I think he's tripled 5 out of the last 8, and I don't do that ever. I mean, I think I've got – I know, as a matter of fact, I've got 1 triple in my history, and that was New Bern last year. That was the first triple I ever had. But I don't know how many I've had. Well, a lot of it stems from the fact that I don't cook all 3 all the time. You know, there for a while I was cooking hog and rib and wasn't doing shoulder because it's hard for one guy to do it all. Yeah. But now that I'm backing down off a hog and not cooking hog all the time, it's shoulder and rib a lot of the time. And there you go. You still don't have a triple, but you know, I got doubles right and left. But yeah, the triple is, if you're doing it by yourself, man, I'm not telling you anything. It's tough. Oh, yeah. Back when it was all the on-sites, it was rough. So Lance is going to be your biggest competition of the year? Yeah, it's between him and probably if Nick Woolfolk makes it back into the pack again this year. I hadn't seen him much, but I know he said he wasn't going to cook a whole lot before South Haven. So his work schedule, I think, has got him. Yeah, well, I mean, heck, we've had a lot of storms. Yeah. Disasters here lately, and that kind of jerks him out of the competition circuit, puts him working on the road because I know he's been out in Florida for a while and down in North Mississippi, Southern Mississippi, where they had all those tornadoes come through. I don't know if those guys made it up to Covington or not, or if there was another crew that. Yeah, I don't know if they did or not. But yeah, they've got all they can do feeding all the people they do, and man, I tell you, it's a labor of love. It's got to be because that's a lot of dadgum work cooking for that many folks. It is. Well, do you feel like cooking a hog has its advantages over cooking a rib or a pork in the MBN? In the MBN right now, I would say yes and no. Yes, it has an advantage because, quite frankly, the field is a lot smaller. It's always been. I mean, even at contests like, look at Atoka 2 weeks ago. You had 55 ribs, 51 shoulders, and 13 hogs. Hey, at least you had 13. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more than we used to have. Used to be we'd struggle to get, 5 or 6. But I don't know. I think one year there were 16 hogs out there at Atoka. Yeah, it's constantly a big contest. Atoka and South Haven always draw more because of Memphis and May. Yeah, Atoka, South Haven, and then in the fall, Arlington draws a big number. I think they had 12 or 13 last year. But yeah, it's a big pack out there. But there again, you're looking at the numbers, 13 versus 55. It's an advantage if you're good at cooking hog. Now, there's a lot more to screw up cooking a hog. Well, I mean, yes and no. Maybe I look at it different. I mean, too, you still got to win a table regardless. You still got to carry the score. You're not going to the table but with 6 people. This is true. I mean, so it's kind of just depends on how many tables they're running per category and all that. They ran 3 in Atoka, and first and second place came off of our table, which was odd to me, but that's the way it fell. And that was what... I can see that when you got 3 tables, though. Yeah. I mean, it's bound to happen. I mean, seen it all the time. So what's your biggest win you've had so far, or your proudest moment so far since you've been cooking? Well, I hate to keep hankering back to Atoka, but I've been after that train for 10 years. Has it really? I mean, I texted you the other day, congratulations on that after you won that contest. Man, and it's been 10 years you've been trying to get that train? I cooked that contest the very first year they had it, and that's I've tried to get a first place or a grand. I've got numerous second, and like you were saying before, I got numerous seconds and fourths down there. Don't have any thirds for some reason, but never been able to pull a first place down there, and or a grand for any stretch of the imagination. But
I didn't win the very first one.
Did you not?
No, I don't know. I didn't win the very first one. I think that either Craig or Boar's Night Out may have won the first one, but I'm thinking Craig won it.
I want to say that was around the time that Boar's Night was really kicking in. No, it may have been. I don't know.
They were on their way out because I was on my way in.
Oh, is that what it was?
Because that contest, I remember we hit a first, a second, a fourth, and a first sauce. We had a fourth rib.
I got you.
Second shoulder, first hog. I do remember that because a brand new pair of backwoods I was cooking on at the time. And the only reason I for certain know this, it popped up in my Facebook memories. Last week.
Gotta love Facebook.
That's the only reason I know I didn't grand, but I can tell you that the next 3 years I granded 3 years in a row.
Wow. Yeah, well, that one's top of my list. And my second place at Memphis in May in 19, that's probably my biggest achievement so far.
So how many fourth place trophies do you have at Memphis in May?
Two. 21 and 22.
I was thinking you had 3.
No, I've got a third place in 2012 in rib, which isn't really mine. It's the team. My brother actually cooked that rib, and then
that's right. Y'all did used to cook rib at Memphis. I'm forgetting about that.
Yeah, we didn't start cooking hog in Memphis.
And you made them switch. You said you took my mentality. I remember this now. I'm just coming back to me. You said whatever I win with at the end of the year, that's what I'm rolling in Memphis in May with.
You're right about that. That's exactly what I did. And and I was standing around on the at the stage, and I remember this conversation distinctly because it was me and Jonathan Huddleston, Tracy Hobson, and Jeff Jones were standing at the stage watching awards, and Jonathan Huddleston turned around and looked at me and goes, "Why in the hell aren't you cooking hog?" Because 8 of the 9 guys that they called in top 10 I had beaten the weekend before. And he was like, "Why are you not cooking hog?" And I said, "You know what? It's a good question." And next year we cooked hog and came in second. Missed first place to at that point it was Hometown, but it was Marcio and the guys that are now cooking for Hog Addiction.
Yeah.
And Dustin and I'm sorry, not Dustin. My brain just went blank. Anyway, Hometown, those guys beat me by 1,000th of a point, 0.01.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, those are always the worst ones.
It's especially on that stage, man. Getting beat by 0.01, it'll break your heart. I tell that story every year in my judges presentation, but it is what it is.
So, talking about that hog, you cook your hog running style, right? And so do you see that it has an advantage because you cook that and I cook belly up, a belly up hog? What advantages or disadvantages do you see of either or?
Well, the reason I cook the reason I cook running style, the advantage I see is presentation. So if in a competition like Memphis in May or an NBN competition where you're dealing with on-site judges, even if it's just in finals, presentation is a lot of that. It's not that it's so much of the score, but it is a lot of the score, but it's the actual mindset of the judges. When they get in there and I pop that lid, it still looks like a pig. Excuse me. It not that it doesn't when it's belly up, but I don't know. It just presents better in my opinion, and it's all opinion. I mean, that's God knows you've won, way more than I have with my hogs, but
I wish I'd have kept a count on how many I've cooked my life.
Oh God Almighty. I can't even think.
Do you have a clue of how many you've cooked?
No, I've been cooking at least 15 to 17 competitions now for 6-7 years. So do the math. It's upwards of 100 easy, but and in the grand scheme of things, that's not anywhere close to, especially your numbers.
I'm probably over 200, but nothing. That's not big numbers to me.
Catering and parties.
I used to cook 3 every year for the Liberty Bowl.
There you go.
So I'm including that in my numbers. I'm over 200.
Yeah.
That's catering and all, and I
know I've burned up a backwoods and a half. Let's put it that way.
A lot of work. I got another waiting on you to finish it burning up.
I get that.
Well, I've always cooked the hog belly up, just hold its own juices. And
cooking in the bowl of that skin, it's definitely got its advantages as far as moisture and flavor content. But
I've always liked the running style, like you said, the look of it. If you keep the skin a golden color, and you're setting the bark on your loins and all that, you trim them back and you kind of keep them protected until right there at the end, and then you're sprinkling your rub on or your sauce. And
I'm getting bark on just about 3/4 of the round there on that. Once it's trimmed back and injected up so that it's it's puffed up above that cavity there, and
all of it's got to do with trimming, how
absolutely.
You trim. Every bit of it's got to do with how you trim.
And I'll tell you, a lot of it for us with the decision to go running style had to do with where we learned to do it. And Pete and Melissa were the ones that taught me how to cook a hog. We took a class from them down at their place, and that's how they cook it. And
Well, you've changed yours up from that, though. You keep yours kind of in that tucked under position.
I do a little bit different than she is, but that's where I got my basis. So it's, she's cutting more of a channel in the top and doing everything down in, where I'm bringing mine up. Yeah. So it's different, but it's the thought process, the theory is the same.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
But it works. It works for me.
And so I'm assuming the backwoods is your favorite grill then?
Well, if you're talking about cooking hog, yeah. And I've got 6 or 7 of the daggum things. I've got a party. I've got the G2 party. I had a chubby at one time. Looked at buying a piglet a while back before I got into that old hickory to cook shoulders on, and had I not ever cooked on that old hickory, I'd probably have it. But I tell you one thing, man, there's something about those old hickories. I'll say it again. It's just.
So you still cooking shoulders and butts, or are you all butts?
No, I'm shoulders and butts. I'm cooking butts for a blind box and then shoulders for presentation. They just present better. Now, I will tell you this, at New Bern last year, I presented with both. I set a shoulder and a butt because I had one left. I didn't burn all. I usually cook 4 butts for blind boxes, and I didn't burn all of them for building my blind box. And I had a really pretty one sitting there, so I said, you know what?
That's always smart, Will.
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot. I set both of them on the table. I said, here's the difference, This is what they let us cook now. This is a shoulder. This is a butt. And, break it down, tell them what
Now, did you win first place pork?
I did. I took first place pork, first place hog, and Dustin beat me in ribs by, I don't know what the score was, but it was right there, man. He just barely got me. But I did take the grand with that hog, so.
Well, going back to the barbecue contest, what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you at a barbecue contest?
Oh, Lord. That's a good question. Weirdest thing that's ever happened. Well, I like to tell the story, but I wasn't actually there. My team, we were cooking on an older, kind of a backwoods copy when we first got into cooking hogs, and a lot of the people that are in the circuit or on the league know this story because we set one on fire down at Smoking Aces in Tunica back in, I think it was 11 or 12, I can't remember, but we were playing around with, the backwoods has that water pan underneath. Well, this cooker that it was a homemade one, stainless steel one that somebody had built. We were playing around with using sand in the bottom. Well, the sand holds that moisture and it holds that temp better than just water. Problem is you don't have a way to drain grease out of sand. Sand soaks it up. Well, we didn't kind of factor that into our thought process, and that bad boy burst into flames. So you pop the lid of the grill open to take a look at everything. As soon as the oxygen got in there, it flashed, and I think it took 16 fire extinguishers to get that bad boy put out.
Wow.
Luckily enough, we were able to jerk the I say we because it was my team, but I wasn't there. I had I think I had surgery that weekend or something. But anyway, they were able to pull the rack out, set the hog over on the table, get the grease put out in the cooker. They changed out the sand, fired it back up, stuck the hog on there. Still took 4th place with it.
That's pretty incredible. I guess it was wrapped up the whole way.
Oh yeah. It was at that point. It was wrapped for the night because that's where all the grease came from. All that fat had already rendered, so they were real close at that point in time. But yeah, it was a mess, man.
So I know you've cooked a lot of MBN contests. Have you cooked in any other sanctioning bodies? You done any KCBS or SCA events or anything like that?
I've cooked a couple of the SCAs that were in conjunction with MBN contests. Cooked a couple of them in Atoka in the past few years. Cooked one at where was that? Marion, back when it was the Esperanza Bonanza that doesn't happen anymore. Although I think I heard that one's coming back next year. I think Logan's bringing that back as a Down syndrome benefit. So
that'd be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that contest. That was one of my favorites. I took the last 2 shields and helmets. You remember that story?
Man, don't even get me started on that bullshit. I'm going to go ahead and say that out now about a coin toss.
Well, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. Doesn't matter whether it's right.
And I know a lot of nobody's going to know what we're talking about here. And so I got to quit that one right now. I could go into a spiel about that.
It was bad. I'm sure you can.
And I'm sure the bad part about that whole situation, it was probably not the way it was determined, but it was the way that it was told.
Yeah, it was the way that it was presented. I have a feeling you're right.
And so now I look back and I'm just glad I just dropped it.
Yeah.
It
happens, man. But I cooked an SCA up there, and I don't know. I get into the steak thing, and I appreciate the guys that do it, but man, there is only so much you can do through with a 1.5 inch piece of meat that big, and these guys are flavoring those things up so crazy. It's just,
I agree. And how many rubs can you put on one steak?
Exactly.
Man? I see some of these guys out here putting 8 rubs on it and doing all this, and I'm like, man, just give me a bottle of garlic jalapeno and get the hell out of the way.
That's exactly what.
And I'll get lucky, and I go out there once every few years, and I still get a call, and I laugh at this all the time. And I know it's gotten a lot more, meticulous and professional, the SCA has. But the first time that the SCA ever kind of merged with barbecue and started doing stuff, I don't think you were there at an NBBQA event in Nashville.
No, I was not.
And, I won both of them back-to-back days and from all the steak champions and all that. Mm-hmm. And, I was just, man, I'm just cooking a steak like I do at home. That's it. I mean, 2 minutes aside, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 minutes to spin it,
Yep,
2 minutes flip it, 4
yeah.
minutes, 550 degrees for 1 1/4 and it'd be a perfect medium rare every time.
Well, I will say this, I'll give the SCA one thing. They made me buy a PK, and that's not a bad thing. So,
I have a couple PKs, and you cannot go wrong with them. They travel well. That original one kind of fits down off in the bottom down there, and you carry it anywhere.
Yep.
You're not going to tear it up. And it's something you'll pass down to kids, or you'll find it out in a field somewhere.
And that's what I was telling, I forget who I was having this conversation with, somebody up in Atoka the other day. I said, yeah, this is the first one I bought. I bought it 5 or 6 years ago. I said, but it's not the first one I ever cooked on. I said, my grandfather had one of these things back in 1974. Oh, yeah. And it was, it was a different shape and all, but good Lord, man, that company's been around forever.
Yeah, they were been around a long time. So, and I know you've competed in a handful of KCBS contests,
I've done a handful of KCBS. The first one I ever cooked was down in Shriners in DeSoto County, and took a 5th place chicken down there, and I think that's the best KCBS call I've ever had.
Well, didn't you go follow us one time over to Alabama?
Went to Alabama
to cook the Sam's Club
or
something?
Got my teeth kicked in, but yeah, I did. And that was the year I had kind of decided that I was going to try
you had broke away and kept doing things. I remember you calling me a few times. And KCBS is fun.
Oh, well, don't get me wrong. I had a great time doing it. It takes a different style, a different type of flavor profile and a different type of dedication. But
where's everybody holler flavor profile at? I cook the same thing no matter where I go in the country. The same identical thing.
I don't use any heat barely in my NBN stuff, hardly at all. I use a little bit.
Mine's just got a little back end heat.
Yeah, and that's as a matter of fact, I'm getting it from your honey chipotle, and that's where I get my heat in the NBN, and it's just a little bit, just on the end. And every time I cook that flavor profile in KCBS, I end up just nobody likes it. Murdered, yeah. Man. But I went to Savannah year before last, and
now it used to be a big contest. Was it a big contest then?
There were a bunch of people there. I think it was 38 teams, which I don't know in the grand scheme of things, that's not huge for KCBS, but it seemed big to me.
Yeah.
Because I judge a contest by looking at the number of the list, and when I looked down the number of the list at that contest, there were 38, and I was like 36 or 37. So that didn't make me feel good. But I've had some good runs at KCBS. I've had some bad ones, but it's something I'm gonna start hitting a lot more here real soon.
I think it's good to diversify and be able to.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that was kind of what I wanted to do. I mean, I was doing really good at NBN and had my focus, and there wasn't but about 15 contests, in NBN.
And that's the thing, yeah. You max out at NBN 15 to 17, depending on the year. Now we've picked up a couple more here and there, but it seems like every time they pick one up, they lose one somewhere. So I don't know what the end game is there as far as keeping contests long term, but they're making some changes, and like they always do, they're trying to. I
think everybody's trying to be proactive. Every organization right now, there's a lot of. Let's face it, man. After COVID, I think a lot of businesses have struggled. Oh, yeah. You look at everybody's looking at the way they do things a little bit differently in these contests, and you take the travel expense. A lot of judges taking and facing. They don't win any money. They just come and judge barbecue, and so you kind of got to please the whole crowd. It's hard on an organizer. It's hard on the teams trying to travel there when gas is still $4.50 a gallon in a lot of places.
I just picked up a new diesel.
Pork is a little bit more expensive than it was. Mm-hmm. Butts were more expensive. Ice is more expensive. And so
everything.
When you got to add every bit of that up, and, we're fortunate enough to be partnered with Charcoal Company. You're both partnered with Royal Oak. And, I can remember at the time I was buying all of it back then, and I was spending on average $2,000 a week before, and that was without the entry fee to the contest.
Yeah, and a lot of these, you look at the best case scenario, you walk away with $1,000, you're only putting $2,400 back in the bank. So
I'd have to look back what year it was, but I think I won 86,000 one year. but I cooked 31 events, 32, but I cooked 32 and I won 15 that year. 5 KCBS out of 10 I cooked, and I cooked 15 MBN.
That's not a bad track record,
and won 10 of them. And then I know one year, the year before in MBN, I think I won 12, and one year I won 13.
So 86,000 in winnings. What were your expenses? That'd be the question.
Maybe the way we were rolling, I think about 70 something. It wouldn't much, but that was a hotel. That was everything, gas, going out to eat.
That's one of the reasons we went with a toy hauler
everything.
this time.
And so, yeah, y'all are cooking out of a toy hauler, right?
Yeah, we moved into that. We bought it in 20. It was COVID purchase. The wife and I wanted to, get out of town, do some things, and enjoy ourselves as much as we could in that type atmosphere. And it limited itself to doing something like that because hotel rooms just weren't there. They were shut down at that point in time. So we bought that thing and eventually rolled it into something we're cooking out of. And it took a little while to get it ironed out, but, man, I like it now.
You like that bathroom and that bed, right?
Oh, God almighty.
So have y'all still got your big other black trailer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You don't use it at Memphis?
Well, I use it when I'm cooking hog most of the time. Now, I do have another small backwoods that I cook when I'm in the RV that I'll set up next to the side of it. But it's generally for just pork and ribs. But the big black one is still gonna it's still gonna be at Memphis in May. It's not going anywhere. I don't
blame you. It's paid for.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You get one of them things paid for. You kind of leave it in the driveway if you have to.
Well, is there anybody that you look up to in the barbecue world as a mentor or an idol?
So many. I tell you, man, I kicked around for so long and never won much of anything until I started talking to the guys that had been doing it longer and doing it better than I was. You guys, you remember the year we were at Ruleville. I walked across the street to you and I was like, look, man, I need some help. And, so it started right there. I took information from you. I took information from Mark West. I took information from Jeff Jones. I took information, a lot of it from Pete and Melissa. I think that's the way a lot of guys are doing it now. You kind of do what you can to shorten your
learning curve.
Your learning curve. That's exactly the right phrase. You shorten that learning curve by learning from the guys who, have figured it out. And you take what they've done and you build on that. So that's what I've kind of done, and it's worked for me. So, but yeah, I quite a few mentors in this life.
Well, where out of all your travels, where did you say has some of the best food you've eaten when you've went to a barbecue contest? Not barbecue, that you've been to restaurant wise. What's one of your favorite foodie type barbecue cities that you've been to while traveling? Or restaurants?
I will say, Katie and I took a trip last year, it was year before last, 2021 anyway. That numbers doesn't matter. We went and took the camper and went over to, my wife's sister lives in Oklahoma City. We picked her up and headed straight south. We were going to camp on the beach down in Port Aransas. And so in between Oklahoma City and Port Aransas, Texas, there's a little state called Texas. And there's a bunch of barbecue restaurants in that joint. So we hit up Black's and we hit up Chisholm Trail and
did you go to Kreitz Market or any of that way? Smitty's?
Went to Smitty's, went to, tried to hit up Franklin's, but missed that boat by about 2 or 3 hours. But yeah, we hit up a bunch of them down there. And I tell you, I'm not as accomplished of a brisket cook as I'd like to be. But that taught me a lot. And my brisket game has stepped up quite a bit since then. And, but that, I will say, traveling down through Texas, some of the best food I've had, man. And it's so simple. Different from what you see in Memphis.
It's so simple.
Exactly. It's salt and pepper, man.
Well, I think what separates Texas also is the post oak.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different kind of smoke than you're getting up here.
Yes, that flavor that the post oak is putting off. You can still cook with salt and pepper if you want to at home, but it's not the same as the post oak.
Not if you're burning hickory and apple and cherry and all that stuff like we do. So it's
it's such a. But what I found every time I go to Texas, I'm a bigger guy. I'm gonna get the heartburn. It's from such the dominant wood flavor. Absolutely. It's so good, and it draws you in.
That's why those Tums stay in the trailer.
You're right. Well, I take a pill for that now. And
there you go.
I can tell you, I used to eat Tums 40 going north, and I quit, and I take one pill a day, and it's the best decision I ever made in my life.
I get it.
It's been good. Do you manufacture any products still or anything like that?
Yeah, I've still got some rubs out on the market now. I will say I use them a little bit in competition, but since I've picked up, brand ambassadorships from people like yourself, I don't use mine as much in competition as I used to, but I do still use them a little. I've got 3 rubs on the market. My premium barbecue rub, which is just a good old Memphis sweet rub, works good on just about everything. My buddy Jonathan down in Mississippi, runs Grills of Mississippi down there, says it's one of his best-selling chicken rubs. I was like, okay, if you say so, man. I'd never in my life marketed it as a chicken rub, but, man, it blows off the shelf down there for that. I have my Memphis Magic, which is my SPG, and when I started making stuff, I tasted a lot of what was out there and what other guys were doing, and I decided what changes I wanted to make. So my SPG's got a little bit of a citrus back end to it, so it's not something you really pick up in most of the SPGs on the market. Now your citrus rub has got hints of, but your notes are a lot heavier than mine are. My citrus is way more of a back end, but and it's I've got 2 or 3 different kinds of garlic in it and different salts and peppers, and it works real well. I do use it as a base rub on my hog because I use a heavier granule in that than I do, or that I find in the garlic jalapeno of yours, which is what I use on my pork and my ribs. But on my pulled pork and ribs. But and then I've got my beef rub, which is my Memphis Moo, and it's kind of built off of my SPG, and I added in some beef notes and some different paprikas and things, and just to give it a little color. And it's my go-to brisket and steak and burger and anything beef. But those are the 3 I'm working with right now. I've got a sauce that I'm real close to releasing, but you know how it is, man. You want it to be perfect when you get it out there. And
believe me, I was going to release my glazes all the way since last year at Memphis, because I've been making homemade glazes for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
the
we
whole
talked about it
time
not
I've
long
cooked.
ago. Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and say it. My glazes are coming.
Well, good.
They're coming. Some unique flavor profiles. They should be here by Memphis.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, man.
That's
Congratulations. I know that's been a labor of love.
Yeah, you have no idea how much I've went back and forth and tweaking and this and that, and trying to get the consistency level right. And then you got what a lot of people don't realize, you need to set it on the shelf and let it sit there 2 months. I want to see how it's going to perform on the shelf, and how make sure it's not going to get over thick or anything like that. I mean, those are all kind of testing grounds that we've had to battle. A lot of people don't realize a lot of that.
That's a lot of the problem I'm having with my sauces is by the time it sits and cools and does everything it has to do to get to a commercial packaging, it's almost like Jell-O when you're pouring it out of the bottle, and nobody's going to buy that.
That's right.
No matter how good it tastes or how well it works, it's got to work out of the bottle.
Yeah.
And I've had some issues with that myself.
That's easy to fix. I can teach you.
Well, good.
Ain't nothing but some water, man.
All right. That's one thing I'm not using, so maybe that's where it's at.
Well, do you have any plans to, I guess you just hit on that about jumping into a sauce. I was going to say, do you have any plans of expanding your brand?
Eventually.
Or growing it even more? Are you still, and I know you have a YouTube channel, and so are you still making videos and doing anything with YouTube channel?
We killed our YouTube channel a couple years ago just out of my YouTube channel was born out of COVID because it was
needed something to do.
Yeah, I needed something to do, and working with a hospital. You think the world shut down? Try working for a hospital during that mess, man. It was a rough road there for quite a while, but I had a lot of time on my hands, and it was always something I really wanted to do. So I got it going, and I think I put about 30, 45 videos out there, and the next thing I know, I was back at work, and time was of short supply between work and barbecue season and all that other good stuff. Having a wife and a family and life, and it'll take the time right out of your hands. So I kind of put the brakes on it for a little while because I want to put content out there, but I don't want to be putting content out there just for the sake of putting content out there. I want to be putting content out there that's good, that people are going to enjoy, and people are going to get use out of, and it's going to get traction. So I am picking it back up. I've got a couple in the can now, and I'm probably going to fire it up. I put out a Facebook post a couple weeks ago saying I was about ready to do it, and then I've kind of
talked yourself out of it.
Talked myself out of doing it. Like
realize how much work it actually is.
Exactly. I want to have enough in the can to where when I start launching them, I'm not having to go right back and film another one tomorrow or another one tomorrow.
That's what a lot of people don't realize about how we do it.
It's so much work, man. So much work.
Yeah, it's a lot that goes into the planning, and I could do so much more on the planning end before I even start a video. And that's something I've got to get better at myself. It's hard. We move very fast and every day, and before you know it, you look up and the day's over and you got to go home. And I go to bed every night at 9 o'clock, and and you're getting right back up again, and I'm brainstorming.
And you got a baby, man.
I know. It's wide open. It never stops for me.
I get it, man.
Well, couple last things that I've got. What's the most random thing you carry in your pocket every day?
These are great questions.
That's pretty much, I'm not going to say useless, but you carry every day, but you really don't, Here
again, I'm a locksmith by trade. So, number one, I carry a wad of keys the size of a softball. I mean, I'm not kidding. The size of keys, keyring that I carry in my pocket, I could kill somebody with that dadgum thing.
Yeah, man, that's a lot
That's a lot of keys.
I mean,
but that little thing right there is probably the most random thing I carry in my pocket. Gerber came out with it a few years ago, and it's
you pick locks with that?
Well, no, it's screwdrivers and bottle openers, and I use it to clean underneath my fingernails after cooking at a contest.
Real. So I have to ask this: you've been a locksmith, carrying that many keys. Do you carry a pick set with you?
Usually, but at work, and there's one in my car, so I've usually always got one pretty close.
So can you pick a lock pretty good?
Oh yeah, that's
really
that's kind of the.
May need to get your fingerprints on file for you leave from here. Then.
They're there somewhere, I promise you. Probably not for the reason they need to be, but they're there somewhere.
Well, look, Will, I really appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, absolutely. Man.
I hope everybody enjoys listening to you tell your story. I know that we've been friends for years, and I always like to try to bring people on that I know that we can have good conversations with and talk barbecue and talk shop, man. And I appreciate you coming on.
And that's like I say, that's like I tell my finals judges, always come back and talk to me, because if there's one thing I can do is sit around and talk barbecue for years on years.
Same way with me. Well, look, tell all the listeners where they can find you at on all your channels and all your sources.
We're at SmokeMasters BBQ Memphis on, and that's on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And then YouTube is used to be Qing with Uncle Woo, but nobody could figure out how to spell Qing, so we changed it to Barbecue with Uncle Woo. So of course, there goes everybody. Who's Uncle Woo? Well, I'm Uncle Woo. I have back in the day had a 2-year-old niece that couldn't say L's and Will, so I became Uncle Woo. And when you have a team full of 15, barbecue guys, and your niece comes up and says Uncle Woo, you either accept Uncle Woo and roll with it, or you fight it. And I decided not to fight it. So
nothing wrong with that.
Uncle Woo has kind of stuck with me over the years. He's on my rubs too. So, but yeah, that's it's Barbecue with Uncle Woo on YouTube, and like I said, there's some good videos on there, but there'll be some more kicking up around right before Memphis in May, and we're going to shoot a bunch from Memphis in May. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, good deal. Well, thanks for coming on, Will. Absolutely. And as always,
yes, sir.
Be sure to always have a cold one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Shootin' the Q podcast. If you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please feel free to reach out to us on our social media channels or through our website. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Leave us a review if you enjoyed the show. Until next time, keep shooting the Q.